Hey, welcome to Breaking Boxes with No Fun Dave, and where we where we talk about all things truth and all things interesting in order to help you get more of what you want out of life. Now, we're going to jump back into the health depository or the crazy health chat today. I put up a podcast a couple of weeks ago that was called Lunatic's View of Health, which of course I'm the lunatic, but I've gotten a whole bunch of comments and feedback and questions about health since that podcast went up. And so I wanted to. Something else came through my inbox and through my news feed yesterday, and I wanted to talk about it today because it's really, really interesting. And it's this. It says a man was scheduled for a hip replacement surgery, but says that while he was waiting, he was able to grow back the cartilage in his hip. Now, hold on a second. He was scheduled for a hip replacement, which is one of those surgeries that is said, oh, well, I mean, once your hip goes, it goes. You got to go have a hip replacement. And sometimes you have to have both hips replaced. And then you got to get some knees replaced. And then you got to get, I don't know, maybe some brain cells were replaced. I'm not sure. But we are a very surgery-happy society. We love cutting and slicing and dicing and making things supposedly better. But I want to look at what he has to say, and I want to look at sort of the reasonings why we have these hip replacement surgeries in the first place, and whether there's a way that you can do it differently. So, keeping in mind when I'm talking about health, I am not a health professional. I have no health credentials in any state, city, or country. And so anything that I say about health has to be taken with a grain of salt and is strictly my opinion and does not constitute professional medical advice. So here's the summary of what came through my newsfeed. It says, in Spain, Andrew Tunstall says he dodged heart surgery and a hip replacement by changing his lifestyle with nutritious food, rest, patience, supplements, and careful exercise. He says that his osteoarthritis disappeared and the cartilage in his hip repaired itself. Other joints, such as knees, were also repaired. He followed a low-carb plan to cut out sugar, processed foods, lectins, and nightshade plants like tomatoes, potatoes, and peppers to reduce inflammation. He also reveals that he was on a couple of different supplements, those supplements being glucosamine and chondroitin. And that after 40 years, and that Tunstall, a runner for 40 years, is able to run again following the transformation that has happened in his joints. So, of course, when something like that comes out, I mean, somebody was able to fix their hip, build back their cartilage. You'd think the medical community would be saying, whoa, that's awesome. What's happening there? How can we replicate that with our own clients? But that's not what you hear. And in fact, I'm probably all that you're going to hear on this matter, because we love surgeries. Now, I happen to have a number of doctor friends. I am not one, but I have a number of doctor friends. And we were at a bar one night talking about hip replacement surgeries. And this gentleman does them all the time. And he had a few beverages and was joking about how incredibly bloody and gruesome and harsh a hip replacement surgery is. So when you think about it, okay, so you've got this ball and socket joint that connects your leg into your hip. And in order to replace the joint, you need to essentially cut the body open, cut off the bone, replace the ball, so I guess dislocate the leg from the socket, cut the bone, keeping intact all of the tendons and ligaments and all that kind of stuff, put a receiving housing in the hip socket, put it back together, make sure everything's connected right, stitch it all up, and into recovery. Now, he was saying, and what he was joking about was how much blood is on the floor, how much it's gross. It's a lot of grossness all wrapped into one surgery. And we do it like I say like it's nothing, but it's like it's nothing. I was reading through a few different websites advertising hip replacement surgeries, and they're like, well, there used to be some risk involved in hip replacement surgeries, but no longer. There's really no risk whatsoever. There's no problems. There's no nothing. Okay, except for the fact that there are problems. If you ask somebody who's telling you about getting the hip replacement surgery, and you ask them, well, is the hip going to be as good as the one that's currently in my body? Well, no, it's not going to be as good. We can't replicate the one that's there. Oh, okay. Is it possible down the road that I will need another hip replacement surgery? Well, yes, that there is a possibility of that. So even if you get your hip replaced, you might still have to do it again anyways. And you have to go through this surgery where they're cutting your leg off and replacing it with a piece and then sticking it back into your body. And I'm making it sound really crude, but that's that is what is actually happening. And so if there was a way to be able to repair those problems without having to cut off your leg, wouldn't that be a better option? If your body could heal itself, wouldn't we want to encourage it to do so? And seeing as how pain and chronic problems are a sign of long-term problems or long-term deficiencies in our activity, in our diet, in our action, then getting the surgery done and continuing to do those actions would just replicate the same problem all over again. And if that major problem is a sign of something, what other minor problems aren't really showing up in pain or discomfort yet? And so if we can solve the root problem, then we're going to solve all sorts of problems. So if there is a way that our body can actually repair the problems in our body, then certainly that's something that we would want to explore. So here's what this was reported by Dr. Ken Berry, Dr. Bellmans, and Andrew Tunstall on March the 4th, 2024. Okay, so he says, so here are the steps that he went through in order to fix these problems. Number one, he reduced inflammation. Okay, so inflammation is when something is problematic in your body, when there's a fixing going on at some point, when you've hit your arm hard, or when you break something, or you have a cut, there's inflammation that builds up around that repair zone. The more inflammation that you have, it insulates, but it also causes a whole lot of other problems. This body trigger to inflame causes all sorts of problems in your body. So he reduced the inflammation. He cut, and by doing so, to do so, he cut the sugar from his diet. And that means carbohydrates, which are all made of sugars. He cut nightshade vegetables, tomatoes, peppers, eggplant, potatoes. There's a note here. It said, well, the science on that one is inconclusive, so he just cut them anyways. He cut out or limited to, at best, alcohol, and added natural and anti-inflammatories into his cooking, namely turmeric and ginger. So he cut out sugar, cut out carbs, cut out tomatoes and peppers and eggplants, reduced alcohol, and added turmeric and ginger as far as what he was eating. You say, "Oh well, I couldn't do that. I couldn't possibly make those kinds of changes." So, okay, so instead of cutting sugar from your diet, you're wanting to cut your leg off and have a fake part installed into your body so you can keep eating sugar through that time, instead of letting your body fix itself. The trade-offs there seem not equal. Okay, so number two is to provide your body with the building blocks that it needed to manufacture collagen. That he needed to manufacture collagen proteins to build cartilage. So to take a collagen supplement as well as glucosamine and chondroitin. So he's giving his body the ability to build the thing that is problematic. Number three, he was allowing time for his body to work. So he followed an intermittent fasting lifestyle. To activate a process called autophagy, which allows the body to clean out the damaged cartilage and replace it with new cells. So if there was a way to be able that your body could naturally clean out old, not used, or broken cells and replace them with new ones, that would be great. And that process is called autophagy, and it is unlocked using intermittent fasting, which means eating for a period of 6 to 8 hours during the day. And then not eating until the next day of that 6 to 8 hour period. So for instance, if you started eating at noon, you could eat from noon till 7 or noon till 8 p.m. and then not eat until noon. And so the way that I've read it over the years, and I've done all of these things, and I've done them all very intently, shall we say, because I always want to find out what's best for my body. But you can, in fasting, there's a 12-hour window from after when you fast that your body is working on the food processing and turning it into whatever it needs to turn into. And then after that time is done, once it's done processing the food, it starts dealing with all of the bad stuff in the body. This process is called autophagy, but it starts getting rid of the garbage in your cells. So if you've got cells that aren't working, or muscles that need repair, there's a whole bunch of information and studies on how allowing your body time to not process food and instead work on fixing itself, that you add longevity to your life, that you add flexibility to your muscles, that your body works better, your gut works better, you process food better. Like there's the amount of benefits from this is huge, which is, I'm sure, why you see all this intermittent fasting movement, shall we say, or in the media of health people. Oh, well, I'm fasting, blah, blah. But the point of the matter is that allowing your body to have time to repair itself is a very beneficial thing. And then the fourth thing was to do gentle, regular exercise, just up to the point of pain, in order to improve the range of motion while the joint is repairing. Walking is good when you can, but no impact exercises like running. And then number 5, which is at this point, if you're doing 1 to 4, number 5 is a non-mentionable, and that's lose weight. And that's really easy if you follow step 1, because sugar is fat. Sugar is what makes fat. Carbohydrates is what makes fat. If you want to be fat, eat more sugar. If you want it to be thin, eat more fat. And that's the big lie that's been given to us for our entire lives. It's like, well, I got to cut the fat. Well, fat is brain fuel. Your brain runs on fat. You want your brain to run better? Eat more fat. You want to have less fat? Eat less sugar. There's a direct correlation. If you cut out the sugars, you'll be cutting out the fats on your body. But you want to replace it with fats, because fat is a longer burning fuel for your body, and one that it works way better on. If you eat sugars, it's going to very quickly use it or turn it into storage, which is fat. If you want to eat something that's going to last a long time, you want to eat fat. So next time somebody offers you bacon, just eat it, because it's delicious. Okay, so the interesting thing is, in my experience in life, when you talk to somebody about a natural cure for something, and by natural, I mean using what your body already has and giving it things that it needs in eating and exercise and like timing activities, such as intermittent fasting, aka not doctor prescribed, because they're never going to prescribe you that. They're going to prescribe you drugs and surgery and things that they can make money with. And the interesting thing is that when you do this, when you actually take time to allow your body to work properly, it not only heals itself, but it heals a whole bunch of other stuff that's going on that you don't yet know about. If you give this information to somebody, they'll typically say, "Oh, well, I could, that's unproven, and I couldn't possibly do that, and that's too much of a life change, and I don't want to cut carbs or sugar out of my diet, therefore I'm not going to do it. I'm instead going to sign up for getting my leg chopped off, have a fake piece put in, and have it stuck back in there, because that's a proven method, that's a scientific method." Okay, well, if somebody has already done this, then the quote unquote natural way, and has fixed the problem, then it's a scientific way too. It's just not written about by the doctor that you're going to prescribe the cure for. And so I looked up some of the different things that are involved in a hip replacement surgery, and I have several family members who have been through hip and knee replacements, and it's not pretty. So first things first, what does it cost to follow the prescribed hip replacement fixing that Andrew Tunstall did? Well, best I could figure, seeing as how you have to eat anyways, so you'll be buying food anyways, you would have to intermittently fast, so you're going to eat less food, so you're going to spend a little bit less there. You're going to need to purchase some collagen supplement, glucosamine, and chondroitin, which I found on Amazon for $15 I think it was a 2-month supply, so it's $7 a month. And even if this whole thing took you a whole year, I mean, the most you're going to be spending is about $300. And so I went looking around the internet to see if I could find out how much it costs to have a knee replacement surgery or a hip replacement surgery. And I did find some stuff. Not surprisingly, there was a whole bunch of sites that didn't tell us how much it was going to cost because it varies from patient to patient and for instance to instance. So what I did find is if I was to go on a destination surgery adventure to Cabo San Lucas, Mexico, I could get the hip replacement done for approximately $6,500, which is more than the fasting and health approach, just so you know, by about 20 times. In the United States, there were a whole bunch of ranges of prices, but anywhere between $40,000 and $75,000 if you have insurance. Hold on a second. If I have insurance, what if I don't have insurance? Well, then it could be discounted to between $20,000 and $25,000. But doctor, isn't it the same surgery? Yes, but if insurance is paying for it, then it's double to triple the price. Gee, I wonder why it's so important that people say, oh, well, you have to have insurance. It's because they can charge more if you have insurance. It's not necessarily worth $40,000 to $75,000, but they can charge it, therefore it is. So if this was to go wide and if it was to be found out, oh my goodness, there's a whole bunch of people who are now fixing their own hips by following a simple health protocol and allowing the body to fix itself for under $300, well, we're not getting the $40,000 to $75,000 for each hip replacement for a patient. You're not getting the follow-up care at physio, which is many more thousands more. You're not getting the follow-up drug care, which is quite extensive, it looks like. And when I looked up what the care requirements were, it was basically like, do a few stretches, install a railing, make sure your bed is accessible, and basically do nothing while it repairs. I say, oh, here, I've got it right in front of you. 10 tips for total hip replacement recovery. Number 1, watch your weight. Hold on a second. Watch your weight. But wasn't the reason that I was doing the hip replacement surgery and not doing it the healthy way was because I didn't want to have to cut all this stuff from my diet? Oh, well, guess what? Even if you have the hip replacement surgery, you're going to have to do it anyways. Number 2, don't smoke. Not sure what smoking has to do with hip replacement surgeries. It just says it's bad in general, so you should stop. Okay, so you got to stop smoking anyways. Perform mild stretches. Nothing too strenuous. You don't want to pull anything. Number 4, have someone drive you around. I mean, that's a good idea either way. That sounds like fun. Number 5, follow your medication plan diligently. Make sure you purchase your medications. Relocate your bed to a more convenient position. Make your bed as comfortable as possible. If traditional pain medications upset your organs, search for alternatives. Number 9, get some railings installed in the house. And get a reaching aid, which can save you a whole lot of trouble. Now, that certainly sounds interesting, but for the point being, you're going to be just as, in fact, more. You're going to be more bothered, more disrupted by having a hip replacement than you ever are just changing your diet and your activities. And I mentioned earlier that I've done all of these different things. I've done the intermittent fasting. I do actually live in an intermittent fasting style of life anyways, but I've done the cutting all sugars from the diet. I've done the just eating the vegan way. I've done just about everything that I can find. Here's the interesting note about it. When you cut sugar, the first day sucks because your body's addicted to it and it wants more. No different than smoking. On day 2, you're probably ornery, angry, frustrated, because your body's saying, hey, where are those sugars? And it's uncomfortable for your body to switch from burning sugars to burning fats. After the 3rd day, it's so easy. So easy. In fact, it's fun after the 3rd day because you start to taste things in foods you've never tasted before. You eat a piece of cauliflower and it's like, wow, this has such incredible flavor. But because we smash our taste buds with sugar all the time, all we taste is sugar with a little bit of difference. Sugar with a little bit of difference, which is why we think bitter is so bad, because it's the opposite. And as you continue down this path of no carbs, no sugar, my goodness, all sorts of things fix. All sorts of things feel better. Anyways, it's quite. If you've never done it, you should do it anyways. Interesting note number 2. So he's saying, in order to fix his hip, in order for his body to fix the things that were wrong, that were really wrong, he had to fast, eat vegetables, proteins, and fats, and give his body what is needed for repair. What I find so interesting about that is that our whole society builds our diet plan opposite to that. Completely opposite to that. We are, if you're hungry, eat. What's hungry? Hungry is the feeling that happens when your stomach is in the process of shrinking. Okay, so it's not hungry, it's actually just stomach shrinking. So feed you got to have a well-rounded meals. Make sure you have carbs and vegetables and meat. And then we look at the proportions that we're actually giving ourselves, and it's like carbs, a few bit of vegetables, and some meat. Meat part good, little bit of vegetable not so great. It should be much higher. And the carb part we love to shove in there because that makes us feel nice and full. And we do it day in and day out and day in and day out. And we never don't do it. We never actually give our bodies a time to recover and repair. And magically, when we do that, we don't repair the problems, and then we're left with all sorts of different problems. And so whether it's a hip replacement or a knee replacement or carpal tunnel or muscle pains or gut problems, or you'd be surprised to find out that all sorts of those things fix once you change your lifestyle to allow your body to repair itself, if you give it the things that it needs and allow it the time to be able to do that. So just an interesting note. I love reading these kinds of articles and testimonies from people who have had major changes done in their life, just thinking outside of the prescribed box that's given to us by society. We're told we have to follow our doctor's advice, except our doctor's only ever going to prescribe what they're allowed to prescribe us, which is surgeries and drugs. And if there was another way, we're going to have to find it on our own. So there are other ways. There are really cool ways. And you can get your body working the way it's supposed to, repairing itself, living longer and healthier, and just feeling better every single day. Thanks so much. Till next time.